All right, well, time for another little update. I haven't done anything in a week or two just because I've been waiting for kind of trying to figure out a couple answers on something. So I had something to say, or hopefully some news on things. As we can see, we're not fully back together yet, but I think we finally have some answers on, excuse me, a couple things. So it turns out not all the valves were bent, at least that you were bent enough that you could physically see. When we changed out the valves, uh, at least two of them were bent enough that you could visually see when you were looking at them, uh, down the when you were holding it and kind of looking down straight down it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. When you're trying to looking straight down the valve stem, you could see, or it's not the valve stem, but the actual valve, that you could see that there was a little bit of a bend in it. So there were at least two of them that were bent. The other ones, if they were, it was not enough to visually see. So maybe they were, but not enough to visually see. What I believe the actual overall problem now is, or has been all summer, was if you remember, I had that valve problem, or the rocker problem that messed up one of the valves that we kind of determined last year, was kind of part of the problem and what had happened. So it wore off the, top of the valve, excuse me, the top of the valve stem. It had been worn off and it kind of messed up, part of one of the springs and stuff like that on that cylinder number 3. And so to be on the safe side, what I decided to do was replace all the rockers on the passenger side, just so that if there were any other ones that may have gotten damaged, before that, and you just couldn't see, maybe there was a hairline crack in it or something else, you just couldn't visually see, but had gotten messed up. I didn't want to go through this all again, have something go through the blower and mess up the sleeves, and all that stuff that had to be done this last winter. So I decided to be on the safe side. Just, it was, you could say, cheap insurance compared to the cost of the overall engine and stuff like that, just to replace all the rockers on that side of the engine. Well, it looks like that is what the issue is, or has been, because so doing a leak down test with it without the cams in, so just with the valves and everything like that, the leak down test was good. So I put it back in. I probably should have done it when I have to put the cams in, but I didn't. Put everything back in, put it back in as you see it now, did another test, and it came back, showing like 80% or about 75% leakage on all the cylinders. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It was just showing that. So the cam is okay. We believe the cam is timed okay. So talking with a friend of mine was helping me with the valve job and stuff. He's like, well, it's got to be either the rockers or the followers, the lifters, because that's the only other thing that, would be affected, obviously, when you put the cam in, that's putting pressure on the valves, and because what we could tell when we looked down inside of it here with it off, and this is why I didn't put the intake and stuff on. When you look down here, when it's at top dead center, so the valve should be closed. If you zoomed in and took a picture down here, and then one of them from over here, the side that it's working, over here, you could see the very edges of the valves. So we knew that the valves were not closing fully. So that's why it was having such leakage problem, and that's why there was no compression. So, like I said, had a 50-50 shot that it was either the rockers or the lifters. And because I had just replaced the rockers, and I got them from the Ford dealership, I'm like, well, there's no way that that's what it is. It's got to be the lifters somehow got damaged, or it's not fully fully closing. It's somehow the lifters being held up or something like that. So I bought new lifters. But also because I was in a hurry and I'm trying to get the car to go because I'm running out of time here in Wisconsin to be able to drive it here. Probably got a month or so, maybe a little over a month depending on the weather, maybe 6 weeks, and then, it's just going to be time to put it away. So a little bit of a hurry. So I took a gamble and I guessed that it was the lifters there. So it turns out that was a wrong guess, because I had moved, because I had some compression on number 2. So I moved before I took the brand new lifters and put in the followers, or the lash adjusters there, the lifters in, I moved them from cylinder number 2 to 1 with that, because that's the other reason too why I was waiting things, because I had to get this special tool that Ford had in their manual to be able to change out the rockers and the lifters while the cams are in the car. And nobody makes this special tool anymore. It looks like it's all been discontinued, and so I couldn't find one that basically is a 90-degree angle like this. All the rest of them, like Summit and stuff like that, they're all like this. Well, that doesn't work in a 4-valve. That's, I guess, more meant for like a 2-valve or a 3-valve. So that wasn't working. So I had to get that tool. So that took a little bit to get in. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I happened to find one place online that had one left in stock. So I got it. But back to what I was saying. So I moved over the lifters from the cylinder that had compression to number 1 that didn't have compression, because number 1 did before and number 2 didn't. So now they reversed when we put everything back together again. So I moved those lifters over, and really didn't make any difference. I still didn't have compression on number 1. And number 2 was down a little bit, but pretty much the same compression. So I'm like, okay. So I pulled the rockers out. I compared my old rocker, one of my old rockers, to the new one, and visually it looked okay, or it looked the same. The notches were in the same spots. It visually looked okay. So I thought, well, just for the heck of it, so I took a set of the old rockers and I put it on cylinder number 1. Did a leak down test, and it was still leaking quite a bit. But I thought, wow, maybe it just hadn't quite seated yet. So I went to do a compression test, and it instantly jumped from basically no compression to 120 pounds, which is still low, but is way better than that simply by changing the rockers. So that basically informed me that the rockers seem to be the issue. So either I got the wrong rockers from the Ford dealership, or they are the right rockers, but the tolerance was just not right. They were manufactured a little bit incorrectly from a tolerance standpoint, like the ball. The mechanic friend of mine was telling me, well, maybe they did say the right ones, but maybe that ball is just, a millimeter bigger than it should be, in the tolerance, and then that's what's keeping the ratio is off a little bit. So that's what's keeping the rocker or the valve open a little bit and causing the problems. But either way, that's what it seems to be. So I emailed the Ford dealership just to double check to make sure that they sold me the right rockers for a 14 GT500. And if they did, then it's just got to be a tolerance issue. And I'll probably am going to get from Modular Headshot from Jordan, I'm probably going to get a set of aftermarket ones, because these heads are supposed to be the same heads that were on a GT40, the Ford GT, sorry, not GT40, I'm sorry, the Ford GT when it got re-released, back several years ago. And these are supposed to be the same heads that were on that, and that flow much better than normal heads. Those rockers are meant to go on a Ford GT head, and it says you can put them on a normal 4-valve head, and it gives you a little bit of extra, horsepower and blah blah blah. But they're supposed to go on that. So I'm probably going to buy a set of those if the ones that he says were the right ones for this car. Then it must be just a manufacturing tolerance issue, and I'm probably going to get those other ones and see if they work any better. I could use the old rockers, but I just kind of hate to, because I don't know, like I said, if they, if there was, hairline cracks in them that we don't know, or you can't see or whatnot. But that's kind of a long story there, but that's kind of where we are at. So it was only a couple of valves that visually looked bent. The rest of them maybe were slightly off, but not visually able to be seen. But so it looks like the whole issue, obviously I had 2 bent valves, so that was not good. That needed to be fixed. But that wasn't as bad as we thought where they were all bent. It may have only been two, but it looks like the underlying cause this whole time has been the rockers, has been the problem. So that's kind of where we're at. Only other thing besides trying to diagnose all that was I welded on, I got from Stainless Works a couple exhaust hangers, and I ended up finding a spot underneath there as part of the seat, the not bolts, but the rod and stuff. Can't think of the word I want to use, but that goes through as part of holding on the track and stuff for the seats, goes all the way through. And I was able to line up a couple of those exhaust hangers I got, and I welded them on to the exhaust and kind of bolted them right up to those. So that secured the exhaust, so the exhaust shouldn't vibrate or loose or anything like that. It's now pretty tight in there. But I apologize. This is very long, much longer than what I was meaning for it to be. But that's kind of where we're at. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the next update I will have the rockers in and the supercharger on, and hopefully it's running. So again, thanks for watching. Bye.